How to stop a psychopath or psychopaths and narcissists from winning positions of power. This is by Steve Taylor, Senior Lecturer in Psychology, Leeds Beckett University, on The Conversation. We all have such people working with us or even in relationships that we're with, God forbid. Now, one of the human race's biggest problems has been that people who occupy positions of power are often incapable of using power in a reasonable way. In the past, this was mostly due to hereditary systems, which assigned power to kings and lords and others who often did not have the intellectual or moral capacity to use their power well. But in more recent times, it seems as though power attracts ruthless and narcissistic people with a severe lack of empathy and conscience. In psychology, there is a concept of a dark triad of malevolent personality traits: psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. These traits are studied together because they almost always overlap and combine. If a person has psychopathic traits, then they tend to have narcissistic and Machiavellian traits as well. People with these personalities can't sense other people's feelings or see the world from any perspective apart from their own. They don't have a sense of conscience or guilt to stop them behaving immorally. They feel superior and enjoy manipulating and controlling other people. At the same time, they need to feel respected and admired and like to be in the center of attention. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. In other words, they feel that the world revolves around them and what they want, and they always like to get what they want. Now, there's a great deal of evidence that people with dark triad personalities attracted to the corporate and political worlds. Research, for example, shows that people with narcissistic and psychopathic traits have a strong desire for dominance and are disproportionately common in leadership positions. As the psychologists Nicholas Steffens and Alexander Haslam put it, like moths to a flame, narcissists may be drawn naturally to positions of power and influence. Or, as the psychologist Robert Hare writes of psychopaths, they are social predators, and like all predators, they're looking for feeding grounds. Wherever you get power, prestige, and money, you will find them. The most evil leaders of the 20th century, such as Stalin, Hitler, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Saddam Hussein, Colonel Gaddafi, clearly had several dark triad traits. They did not become leaders because of their ability or intelligence, but simply because they had a tremendous desire for power and were incredibly ruthless and cruel in their pursuit of it. Many present-day politicians appear to have psychopathic and narcissistic traits as well. It's easy to spot such leaders because they are always authoritarian, following hardline policies. They try to subvert democracy to reduce the freedom of the press and clamp down on dissent. They are obsessed with national prestige and often persecute minority groups. They are always corrupt and lacking in moral principles. Narcissists and psychopaths. In democratic countries such as the UK and the US, one could argue that there is less likelihood of psychopathic people becoming leaders, but there's still a serious problem with highly narcissistic, ruthless, and non-emphatic people attaining power. This is clear from Donald Trump's presidency. Like many mental health professionals, the president's niece, Mary Trump, a clinical psychologist, voiced her opinion that Trump suffers from a range of personality disorders. She suggested his main issue was his severe narcissism, but also that he meets the criteria for antisocial personality disorder, which in its severe form is generally considered psychopathy. Now, I, for one, don't know Mary Trump. I don't know what she is. It says here she's a clinical psychologist. I'm just reading the article for you, okay? I believe that President Trump has done a lot of good to the United States, and obviously putting America first, and that I'm not going to go into other things. Okay, Now, because this is a YouTube video, but let's go back to the article. What can be done? Let's go back to, I'm going further down on the article. Like others who have studied the problem of corporate psychopathy, the Australian psychologist Clive Bodie has suggested that companies should screen leadership candidates for psychopathy. In my view, we should do something similar in politics. Every government, indeed every organization, should employ psychologists to assess potential leaders and determine their suitability for power. Again, I don't believe that people that go into psychology or psychologists themselves are not themselves lacking in their gray matter. There are those that may not be at all fit for society. All right? So who are they to be giving the okay to corporate leaderships and politicians? Again, I'm not agreeing with this. But anyway, I'm just reading the article for you. Personality tests might not be much use because dark triad personalities are manipulative and dishonest, but other assessments could be used. It's widely accepted that there are childhood signs of dark triad traits such as callousness and cruelty and a lack of empathy, guilt, and emotion. So psychologists could examine the candidate's life history, interviewing previous supervisors and co-workers. They could also speak to past acquaintances, former school teachers, or university students. I mean, this is all personal data. Okay, so if a person was willing to give all this detail to you, who his elementary school teachers were, etc., I mean, good luck, more power to you. It doesn't mean that they'll do it, but anyway. Now, some might argue this would give too much power to psychologists, and I again agree there. That's just too much power to these people who would effectively become kingmakers and perhaps become vulnerable to corruption themselves. While this is true, it's surely preferable to the present situation where there's nothing to stop people with narcissism and psychopathic traits gaining power and then using their power malevolently. Again, who's to say if it's malevolent or not? If, psychologists, most of them are liberal, then you've got a problem, don't you? Anyway, please leave your comments and thank you for your support.